Hi, everyone. We all know what time it is. A movie we've been waiting on for centuries.
Did somebody say boom?
No. Not you, Nolan. It's time for Barbie.
Did somebody say boom?
What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the most sophisticated review of Barbie ever. Not really, but we are going to talk about this brand new film. Is it going to blow our minds? And the premise is simple. Barbie suffers a crisis that leads her to question her world and her existence. This movie is rated PG-13 for suggestive references and brief language. It's written and directed by Greta Gerwig, who's a really good director, co-written by Noah Baumbach, and it stars Margot, Robbie, Ryan Gosling, and a plethora of really good cast members. Barbie's played by Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Alexandra Shipp, Emma McKay. Ken is played by Scott Evans, Kingsley Benadir, Simu Liu, and of course, Ryan. You are just Ken, Ryan. He's really good. He's really freaking good in this movie. That's where I'm going to start, the cast, right? You cast Margot Robbie as Barbie. You've immediately got my attention. Isn't that right, sweetheart? You watching this review? Love you, sweetie. She would say that about Ryan Gosling. But yeah, she's really good in this movie. She fits Barbie perfectly, at least the Barbie that she's playing, because the Barbie that she's playing is suffering, like the summary says, with an existential crisis of sorts. It starts out so joyous and wonderful and hilarious at the beginning of the movie, and then things start to go south really quick when she's like, whoa, hey, death. What's that? And everybody's like, death? What, death?
You are a toy!
On the other side of things, you have Ken, and he believes his only purpose in life is to be looked upon by Barbie and to be with Barbie. It's Barbie and Ken. It's not Barbie and Ken, if that makes sense. So to see Ryan Gosling play this character, in my opinion, was just the funniest thing ever. The first 20 minutes are absolutely hilarious because they're living in this ridiculous world, and it's ridiculous. Greta Gerwig knows it's ridiculous, so she's writing it in a way that plays upon the fact that this is silly, and you get that silliness within what's supposed to be this serious, very conventional fairy tale town where they've been doing the same thing over and over, and they continue to do the same thing until those questions arrive. But the way that they interact at the beginning of the movie specifically, I thought the first 30 minutes of this film were absolutely hilarious. It's one of those things, it's like, I don't know how they're going to keep this up because eventually we have to hit a conflict of sorts, but I'm enjoying them living in this crazy world so much, and the things that they say, specifically Gosling and Liu together, back and forth, this Ken versus Ken to get Barbie's attention madness it's so... And then once something happens with our main Barbie, she has to go and venture into the real world and ask questions, but also find the girl who's been playing with her, and maybe the reason why she's suffering through these things at the beginning of the movie. And while that's obviously the reason why this movie exists, that's what Barbie has to do. That's the goal. That's the mission. I didn't find myself as invested in that storyline compared to what we were getting at the beginning. And I understand it's something you have to do, right? But when we leave the fairy tale world and we enter reality, and maybe that's the theme of the movie, reality, it's just not as good as what we're getting at the beginning. And that's obviously the idea that Gerwig is going for, but it also makes for a less interesting story as a viewer because it did feel a bit scrambled and scattered. And I have to use the word unfocused. And part of that could be pacing, editing. We're moving through this really quick, and you saw the behind the scenes of them, kind of skating through Los Angeles, and that looked like it could have been hilarious. And we see hilarious moments, hilarious bits when we're going through that, but it just feels like we're rushing to get to Barbie's goal instead of allowing us to live in that world. I think of a movie like Elf. I know it's a random film to compare it to, but if you think about it, the journeys of the main characters are very similar. We get more time in Elf to sit in the silliness and allow this character, this fish out of water, to do really funny things. In this movie, when we get into the real world, we don't get time for those funny things. It starts to get a bit more serious, and that's great. I understand what Gerwig was going for here, and that message is something that is much more for teenagers, adults, rather than younger kids, younger viewers. I feel like certain messages in this movie are just going to go over the really young viewers' heads. That being said, as an adult, clearly.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
I did enjoy some of the more adult themes that they were going for. I don't know if the writing fully captures it at points throughout the film because we're just kind of rushing through these moments. And there is a young girl that we encounter at the beginning of when she gets to that human world. And I just felt like the writing there was a bit underdeveloped because she goes from feeling one way to feeling another way fairly quickly. And I don't know if the development there worked as well as, say, the development with another character who's a bit older. And I did see that arc come full circle, and I really enjoyed what they did with her. So fully capturing what they were going for with the human characters, I don't know if this movie did that. And then you have this big CEO and the jokes within her going to Mattel. I mean, that was really funny, and I thoroughly enjoyed that humor and some of the things that go along with that. But it does kind of feel like they don't know where to go with these businessmen of sorts at the end of the movie. They're just kind of there, and they don't really serve as big of a purpose as they should have in the film. But again, anytime we venture back to Barbie Land, it works so well. And thankfully, we are there a lot more than I anticipated after the first 20 minutes of this movie. I'm like, man, I hate that we're straying so far away from what makes this movie so entertaining. And the set design, the production design, the color scheme, the cinematography even. It's all really cool. And anytime we're there, I'm watching this movie going, this is different than any other blockbuster. And it's so distinct from other movies that are trying to kind of say what this movie is saying, but also incorporate that sense of humor that's going to make so many viewers just laugh so hard. There was so much laughter in my theater. I didn't go to a critic screening. I went to a fan screening, and the fans seem to have really enjoyed themselves, and that's because Ken is hilarious. There's moments with Barbie that's hilarious. There's a narrator in here, and you're going to recognize that name, and that narrator, she would just come in at moments, and those bits would work so well. And there's actually a bit of emotion that comes in towards the end that you may be thinking to yourself, it's going to feel disjointed, but it actually doesn't. And I really like how they wrapped this movie up. It felt refreshing, but it also felt like it was working in terms of giving us the right amount of heart while still keeping the ridiculousness of what we got at the beginning, the Ken battle and the Ken song when Ryan Gosling sings that song, and it just keeps getting big. It's like an episode of the regular show. It keeps getting bigger and more ridiculous, and I'm like, this is awesome. There's also a Truman Show vibe to this film where you don't really know what's going on, but you don't have to know fully what's going on, and they embrace the lunacy of this world, of these characters, even within the confines of Mattel, outside of the Barbie world. It feels obnoxious, but in the best way. And the whole movie keeps that tone, which is great, even though the writing didn't always serve its purpose, and it does feel a bit, like I said, unfocused at times, up and down. I do believe Barbie works for what it's going for. Does it deliver on the months and months of Barbie hype? I don't know about that, but I do think this is a good movie. And finally, is Ryan Gosling getting an Oscar nomination for this role? I don't know if it's the type of role they're going to nominate for an Oscar, but he's great with what he's doing. He's hilarious. It's just a really gullible character at times. The message of this movie when it comes to empowering women and going up against the system that's been set against them, I do think that was a bit on the nose at times in certain moments and instances, but other moments it uses humor and levity, but also reality to tell that story, and it really worked, especially towards the end of the movie. So, there were certain things and themes that were up and down in the way that they were handled, but you see what the director's going for, you see what the movie's going for, and handling it with humor in almost a satirical way at points, I think that was the best route to go, especially for a Barbie movie. And some are going to say, well, the movie doesn't know what its audience is. Is it kids? Is it adults? I don't think it's younger kids, and that's going to rub people the wrong way. But I do believe those who know what they're in for with this film, they're going to enjoy it. And that's the best thing. So before I give you my score, let me know, did you watch Barbie or Oppenheimer first? Which one? Which one you going to watch first? Or are you doing a double feature? I mean, I'd like to see that.
Well, we're waiting.
Barbie is entertaining and often hilarious, while the story feels a bit unfocused at times. Gerwig effortlessly creates an authentic world that comes to life in an inventive way. The Gosling-Robbie combination is perfect, and the KENERGY is so strong. The cast is having a blast. Again, not sure if it fully lived up to the hype, but this is an enjoyable time in the theater. Thanks so much for watching. This is... I'm burning up. Also, I just realized that turned off while I was doing my video. We'll work on that. I'll see you soon.